Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast, helping higher education marketing leaders share knowledge about learning, strategies, and tactics that are relevant today. See what you can learn today by listening to one of our episodes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast, hosted by Concept 3D. My name is Shiro, and I will be your host today. I'm talking from my lovely mountain home in Silverthorne, Colorado. Today, I'm really excited to talk about how to increase alumni engagement to reach up to 13,000 webinar attendees over the year. And today, our guest is Jordan Prewitt. He is the Associate Director of Special Events at University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and he also has a strong passion for DI work and athletics programs. Welcome to the podcast, Jordan.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and can't start without saying go Vols.
Let's go. Okay. And, I love asking this icebreaker. So to start, what do you love about higher ed, Jordan?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the first thing that I think about is the opportunities that it affords individuals. I'm a first generation college graduate. And so when I came to UT, that was always the dream for me to come to school here. And just immediately the opportunities that were afforded to me, and through a lot of relationship building and connection and organizations that I was a part of, I look back on my time as a student at Tennessee, and I truly feel that it is the gateway to whatever anybody wants it to be. And the self-discovery that comes along with that is something that I think is just the cherry on top. So those are two things that I think are just really special about higher ed, and really what has kept me motivated to keep going even now as a career.
That's amazing. And can you tell us a little bit about your journey to where you are today, which is the Associate Director of Special Events?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little abnormal, to be honest. I started my work in higher ed really as an undergraduate student, and I worked with the Lady Vols basketball team at the University of Tennessee. It was one of my first jobs at UT, and I had the privilege of working with the late Pat Summitt when she was the head coach of the Lady Vols, and really just found my passion for athletics then. I loved sports, but getting to work in it was a whole different ballgame. So I took that to graduate school. So I actually have a diploma behind me right now from the University of Florida, which is a little contradicting to graduating from Tennessee and working at Tennessee. But I had a great experience at the University of Florida and did my master's there in sport management, and really thought that that's what I was going to do, is work in a collegiate athletic program. And I spent some time after I graduated from Florida with the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl and the college football playoff in Atlanta, Georgia for about a year. And at that point, I realized I wanted to get back on a college campus. The corporate side of athletics wasn't really for me. I wanted to be in more of the relationship building side, working with students and working with faculty and staff. So I came back to UT in the capacity actually on the student affairs side, and I worked in university housing for about 3 years. And to all of my housing professionals out there, the gauntlet that can be working in residence life. And so after about 3 years in housing, I transitioned over to use some transferable skills, and really, really loved event management in all the jobs that I had done. And I had kind of identified that as the one common denominator. And there was an opportunity to transition into the event management space in the alumni side, and being an alum of UT and very passionate about the Vols, it was just kind of the perfect fit at the perfect time. And I've been here for going on 3.5 years now in this role, and just kind of working my way through it. So learning new things every day and adding new events every year. So it's been a continuous learning process for me that I'm very thankful for.
Appreciate it. Thanks for sharing that story, Jordan. And I know on our previous call, on our intro call, you've done a lot of great work. Like I think we need a few calls to really map out everything that we discussed on the first call and how you got there. But one of the key things I listened to was that one of your goals right now is to drive alumni engagement. And so I know you've developed many successful programs to help accomplish that goal that is one of your roles right now, right? And can you tell us a little bit more about what you've implemented, in your time there in the 3 years, and some of the success you've seen?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first I start by saying that it's been a complete team effort from our events team to really really work on meeting our alumni where they are. And that's kind of what we realized that we needed to do. And so when I started this role, I started in October, and the pandemic hit in the spring of the following year. And so very quickly, pivoting was the name of the game. And so we went completely virtual, like many people, I'm sure. And so what we realized is that we were kind of thrust into something that we were probably going to work towards anyways. We just had to do it a lot quicker. So we started with what I would call good ideas, and we've turned them into great. I really do feel like we have continually assessed what we do, and we figured out how to make it better. And so when the pandemic started, we were hosting 3 different types of virtual events. We had Facebook Live series, we had a webinar series, and we had athletics pre-game event series that we started called Countdown to Kickoff. And all of those 3 things still exist, but they've kind of morphed into different things now. So those 3 things have really become a staple of our virtual event side of the house. And those are really they've become staples of part of my job, and part of my role has been to accelerate those and expand on them to make them better and continue to let them grow and flourish. And so we've seen a lot of that. We've kind of shifted most recently to speak to the athletic side of things. For this year, we do a Countdown to Kickoff series, which we host is kind of like a kickoff call-in show before every away football game. And then we do that for 2 women's basketball games and 2 men's basketball games, and we call that Countdown to Tip-Off. And then we host that before 1 softball and 1 baseball series called First Pitch Friday. And the great thing is that when we used to do that, we used to just take a lot of videos from our athletics team, and we would put them into this virtual production, and there wasn't really engagement. It was more so just like, get on and watch this show and get ready to cheer on the Vols. So this year, we had kind of seen our engagement dip off. Last year, we kind of dropped into like the 50 to 60,000 range for engagements for each show. And for context, the first year we were closer to 90 to 100,000. And so we had seen a pretty steep drop off. So I kind of stepped back this year and I was like, what can we do to make this better? And we realized that like we were very fortunate to have a lot of great former athletes that really love the University of Tennessee. So if we could start to build relationships with those people, and some of them that already existed, and utilize those relationships to have those people come on to the show on a live format where you and I could get on there and ask questions in real time to these people, and they could see their name on the screen and be like, wow, this is a question from Jordan for Peyton Manning or for Tamika Catchings or whoever it is.
Right.
People would think that's so cool. And so that's what we did. So we started pulling in these Vols that would come back and they'd get on the show with us in real time. And we would basically have a live Q&A session with our alumni and fans around the world. And I was really happy to see that our engagement increased back to about 80 to 85,000 people for each show this year. So we've really seen a big uptick again, but I think it's because we were able to adapt and shift that show to be something new, but something that people wanted to see.
And that was, again, just to kind of, reiterate what I'm hearing back is to bring these key alumni and key speakers to the show and invite them on that your audience, your alumni audience want to engage with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and so especially with athletics, you're using people that are a little bit more high profile. So,
right.
We would advertise those events far in advance so people would know like, oh my gosh, Al Wilson is going to be on this Countdown to Kickoff against Alabama. And obviously it doesn't help that our football team had a good year this year. So that helped things too. But I mean, that was the name of the game is we can promote it far in advance. We can let people know who's going to be on this show. And it also allows us an opportunity to, again, build that relationship with that alum and hopefully utilize that relationship to our benefit in the future, whether that be through other event opportunities. For an example, we have a tailgate this weekend for the women's basketball tournament we're hosting this weekend, and a female who was on our Countdown to Tip-Off show I've now cultivated a relationship with, and she's coming back to speak in person at our tailgate this weekend. So it's utilizing people like that and then realizing like, I'm going to steward this person, I'm going to build this relationship, and then re-engage them when it's appropriate.
That's amazing. And I take it one of the core values and or branding images of UT Knox is is athletics, right? And so when you're at the drawing board, when you first really kicked off these virtual events, you were probably trying to cater to your audience, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I know, and the athletics events aren't the only thing you do, right? You also host some webinars as well on the side that relate to the general population of your alumni as well, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Yeah, absolutely. So to your point, yeah, I mean, athletics obviously is a huge driving force of what we do at UT. But we like to say that we're a university on the rise, and that's not just related to athletics. It's because it really takes a volunteer to do anything, and we truly believe that. And so it's great to have those big names for athletic events, and those are always great. But what I have found is that we've built this virtual presence, and we were able to use that to our advantage again to engage with alums who we normally would not get the opportunity to engage with. And so when the pandemic first started, we were hosting a Facebook Live or a webinar every week. And that was a lot.
Yeah.
So we were very advantageous when we first started, and we realized that was not sustainable. So we pivoted, and we were like, okay, we need to decrease this, because we also saw our viewership start to go down. We had oversaturated ourselves.
Right.
But we started to see our viewership go down. And so we decided that we would step back and we would take that to one a month. And we kind of merged the two. Facebook Live and our webinars were starting to turn into something similar. So we merged it into one. It's called Checkerboard Chats. And now our goal is to host one Checkerboard Chat a month. And we've done a myriad of things with those that have been really successful. We've engaged with people who worked in the honey making industry. And so they taught us about beekeeping and what the sustainability of bees in our environment looked like. We've had alums that have come on who have written comics that have been turned into movies, and they touched that audience.
Right.
We engaged with a former student athlete who was in the WNBA bubble during the pandemic. So we were on a live webinar with her where she was inside the bubble telling us what life was like in the bubble. And so it's been cool to get to really touch alumni in a lot of different ways. Whereas I don't necessarily have an interest in beekeeping, that was one of our most successful webinars because it kind of went viral, and people were like, oh my gosh, there's this person who works at UT in agriculture talking about beekeeping. Now I'm going to share it with all of these other people who are in the beekeeping network. And that doesn't seem like a big network, but I guess it is. So it's been cool to get to really engage with a lot of unique alumni who have very cool skills and very unique qualities about them. And then for us to just basically get to say, hey, like, look at what amazing things our alumni are doing that people probably don't know about. And so
Right.
It's been a really cool opportunity and a privilege to be a part of.
Absolutely. And, putting my business hat on real quick and asking a more business question, like, what is talking about beekeeping? I know it went viral, but talking about beekeeping, talking about being a comic, like, how does that help support, the overall mission you're trying to drive and the institution is trying to drive as a whole?
Well, I think it does two things. One, alumni engagement, like you mentioned from the beginning, is important, right? We're trying to engage our alumni in a multitude of ways. And if we're able to reach alumni who maybe wouldn't engage with our office if they hadn't come across this beekeeping webinar, then that checks that box for us. And it's doing that once a month in a different topic. We did one on retirement and early retirement goals, and we've done one on Black History Month and engaged with different people in our community in underrepresented populations. So there's been ways in which we're engaging with those people, and that increases our alumni engagement. So that's one side of it. I think the other thing too is that as a university, one of our pillars is to be more inclusive and more representative of the entire community as a whole. And whether it's seen as like maybe the, when you think of DEI work, I don't think beekeeping is what comes to mind, right? But when you're thinking about inclusivity and you're thinking about access and you're thinking about representation, if we are only representing the same alumni over and over and over and over again that people know about, like Peyton Manning or Candace Parker, whoever it is, now we are able to say, hey, look, we've brought in a whole bunch of different topics with people of different walks of life and different race and ethnicities and beliefs and backgrounds. And we've been able to branch our inclusive umbrella to include all of these events and all of these different hobbies and skills that we really would have never had the chance to do prior to this. So I think it's really checked two of those boxes for us. And what I'm happy to see is that it went from maybe not went from, but it started with like, we're going to do this to make sure we're doing something that's right. But it also has now turned into something that is going to be sustained and something that we're going to see carry through. And it's not checking a box. It's doing it because it's right and it feels good. And it's good to display all of these things that our alumni are doing.
Thank you for answering that. Yeah, it's not the easiest question to answer, but I'm glad I asked it because that was amazing. And, I think earlier you said you had one webinar a week, which is insanity. And part of that is, I'm assuming, because a lot of work goes into promoting them, right? You can't just, it's not like this podcast recording. It's not just you and me, right? You have an audience. You have to promote it. You have to get other people on board, work cross-departmentally.
Definitely.
And what are some of the ways that you're promoting the event? I know your school's a big school, so, that adds to it. But it's not like you're doing nothing, right? So what are some of the tactics you're using to promote the event, and what's been working, what hasn't? What's been the journey like for the last 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, promotion is the name of the game, right? So it's really like people aren't going to be able to attend what they don't know exists. And so we're trying to make sure that we're checking all of the different avenues that we can. We have an internal communications team here who builds all of our graphics and branding for us. And so they have worked closely with us to be like, these are different events and we need them to be branded appropriately. So when people see this logo or see this thing, they're going to know that's Countdown to Kickoff, or that's Checkerboard Chats, or whatever it may be. And so it started with making sure we had a good brand and making sure that we were utilizing that brand to its fullest advantage. We originally started when we did our very first year of Countdown to Kickoff. We would email all of the people on our listserv for the season and say, here are all of the Countdown to Kickoff dates. And we would add calendar plugs in there so they could add them to their calendars and people could save them to know when the shows were going to happen. We use a platform called StreamYard to execute all of our webinars and all of our athletic shows. So when we utilize StreamYard, we go in there in advance and we post all of the shows to our streaming platform. So we've been able to cross collaborate on campus, and we have access to our Tennessee Athletics Facebook, our men's basketball Facebook, women's basketball Facebook, so on and so forth. And they obviously have wide networks. And so when we promote that through their Facebook feed as well as our own, we reach a lot more people that way. And so that is something we've utilized.
Is that something you can do through that platform, or are you like communicating with the athletics department? It's like, hey, we have this event coming up. Can you please share out? Like, what are the details there?
Yeah, great question. So we do that all through StreamYard. So basically, like, I'm the admin user on StreamYard. And so I work with the athletic department. They add me as an authorized user to their Facebook. So when I log into StreamYard, it connects the two, and it's like, hey, Jordan's logged in. He has access to Tennessee Athletics. And then I'll go in and say, hey, here's the event, and I'll send it out to their Facebook page. When we started doing that too, we didn't use the same photo is kind of like the cover photo for the event. I don't know why. That's probably my oversight, but we weren't using the same photo. And about halfway through the season, I was like, if you're looking at this on multiple pages, you're not going to know that it's the same event. Streamlining all of that, making sure that all the photos match, all the descriptions match, all of our corporate partners match, all of those things. So that way people were seeing everything consistently across all of our platforms. So we also do promotion on our own social media, the Tennessee Alum Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and all that stuff. And we make sure it's promoted there as well. So I think now too, it's a privilege to say, we've created a little bit of a following and an expectation that the things are going to happen. So people look for it a little bit more than they used to. They're like, oh, it's football season. We know that they're going to have something for X, Y, and Z. And sometimes people are coming to look for that too. So that's been helpful.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. It does get at least a little bit easier.
Yeah, a little bit. The production of those shows is a lot more than I think people first realize when my boss was like, hey, we're going to produce these shows. And I was like, I don't really know what that means, but yeah, cool. So that's turned into a lot of work in iMovie for me that I had never done before, and a lot of different editing skills, and maybe or maybe not some Facebook video downloads or YouTube video downloads that I have had to utilize at some point in my career as well. So it's a lot more than I think meets the eye at first.
Absolutely. Are you doing the checkerboard chats and what's the game day one again? Sorry.
Yeah, countdown. So
Countdown.
Yeah. So I do
Countdown to game day.
Yeah. So I do all of those. So
that's great. And you record them ahead of time then, it sounds like, and then stream them, or some of them are live?
Yeah, they're actually all live. So they're all live,
wow.
But so this was another kind of thing that I guess I dreamed up, and I'm sure my partners in the communications team are tired of me dreaming by now. But after we started recording all of these shows, I was like, they're live and that's great, but somebody's going to have to scroll back through Facebook to find the video of us doing X, Y, and Z. And that doesn't seem very productive to me. So I contacted our comms team and I was like, could we build like a video archive where we could take these videos, we could keep them in a place. And again, driving engagement, we built a video archive where people now can go in and they can see all of the recordings of any webinar, any athletic virtual that we've done. All they have to do is put in their first name, last name, and email address, and they get access to the video. So we record all of that data, we turn it around, we put it into our CRM, and then those alums get engagement for that. But before that, they weren't getting anything. So it's kind of scratched our back as well, but now we're able to keep all of these recordings. Mm-hmm. And so when I reach out to someone and say, hey, can you join us for this countdown to kickoff? And they're like, hey, I don't know what that is. I can go pull that video, put it in an email and say, here, watch this video that we made last year. And they understand what we're doing. Amazing. Now. So it kind of works both ways.
And to attend the live events, whether it's a checkerboard or countdown to game day, is there also a registration process for that with the name, the email?
Yeah, great question. So there's optional registration. So we realized that the majority of our viewers were just finding it on social media. They weren't always registering. So we decided to do what we call a Vol fan or a Lady Vol fan of the week. And for each show, we promote it on our website and we put, registration is optional. But if you want to win an autographed basketball or if you want to win a Vol prize pack, please enter your name to register, and then we collect all of that data.
Interesting. Do you happen to know what the percentages of people who actually give up information then, or?
I probably don't have that down to a percentage. Honestly, it depends on the matchup. Usually when we have a bigger football game, we'll have a few hundred people that will actually come on and register because they really want to win. When it's a smaller game, and I won't throw out another school just for respect purposes, but when it's a smaller game that maybe isn't as much of a marquee matchup, we may have a couple dozen, so it just depends on the game and kind of what's going on. But any of that data that we collect is beneficial for us. And we actually have also now garnered a way that when we create these events on Facebook, so to help with hopefully explaining virtually, when we create the event on StreamYard and it goes to all of these different platforms, if someone goes to the event on Facebook and says, hey, I'm interested in this, we get their name. So we can take all of those names, we can cross-reference it with our database and then connect it to their alumni record, and then they get engagement that way.
I love this topic, and it kind of transitions perfectly. So, how are you measuring success, right, with all your events?
Yeah.
The numbers are high, right? And so
I'd
love for you to.
Yeah, we're very blessed. I mean, numbers have been really great. And numbers mean something, and then sometimes they don't mean as much. I think speaking for myself, I got caught up in like this specific number, and I was like, okay, if it doesn't reach this, then I'm not doing well enough, that I think was an unhealthy mindset for me to get into. So yes, measuring success is a part of engagement and viewership and, all of that. But what we have seen really this year, and we've kind of shifted what we viewed as, as a metric, is our viewers are staying on the show longer. So we used to have a viewership time that was much shorter, like less than 5 or 10 minutes. And the shows are anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes. For the athletic shows. The webinars can be anywhere between 30 and 45. And so we were realizing that we were losing people that were getting on the stream. And so when we pivoted this year to doing more of like the Q&A and the live interaction with the individual, people were staying on almost till the very end. So we were seeing that,
Wow.
we were getting people to stay on the show, which the great thing is you can put banners on the show. So we would throw up banners that scroll across the bottom of the screen that would be like, we have new Tennessee license plates for sale that support student scholarships. And now that message is being seen throughout a 30-minute show, and you're getting more eyes on that than if you only showed it in the first 5 minutes and people are dropping off. So one of the ways we're measuring now is how long people are staying on the shows. And another part is the retention of how many people are starting on the first game of the season, and they're also coming back for the last game of the season. So we pull that data at the end of each year, we reconcile that, and then we kind of can get a better idea of who all is coming. Are people showing up one time? Are they repeat viewers? And we're getting a better scope on that. I would not say I have that fully fleshed out yet, but that's something that we're currently in the process of reconciling data wise.
That's amazing. Yeah. I love that you're moving forward and, trying to consider new metrics that are measuring the impact a little bit better versus just pure viewership.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm curious, when it kind of going back to the promoting question, like what are the channels that are working best? I know that, you said that going through the partners is helpful, but like, are you emailing out all the different events that you have coming up? Are you using social? Like what have you seen in terms of channels?
We've done a little bit of both. I've actually been working really closely with our communications team over the past 2 or 3 weeks because we've seen differences in our total viewership for basketball this year. So our basketball for each show is around 30,000 engagements, and baseball and softball are around 30,000 also. And there was one show that was kind of an outlier where we had this pretty drastic dip, and I couldn't pinpoint a reason why that was happening. I say all that to say, we originally started where we emailed before every show. So on the morning of the show, we would use our listserv and we would email out and be like, countdown to tip off is today, Lady Vols versus South Carolina. Here's the special guest, reminder to tune in at 12:30. And our email calendar for the entire system just became so oversaturated that we kind of shifted and we're like, can we try to do this just through social promotion? And so prior to this year, every event we would send an email. We didn't really have a high opt-out rate from those emails, but because that calendar was so oversaturated, we were finding it more difficult to find the right time and day to send that email. And obviously the athletic events, you can't adjust. If the game is on Thursday, then the event happens on Thursday, and that's what it is.
Right.
So I would say that that's still ongoing for us figuring out which one is best. For the last 4 events, we have only used social media, and there was just that one event where we saw that dip. And so I'm not really chalking that up to be something that is to eye open about. It's more so the outlier, and I'm not really sure why. And that is the hard part with social media, is you don't always know why it's not working.
Yeah, the attribution's not great.
Yeah. But I mean, realistically, the not having a high opt-out rate means that hopefully our alums are not, they're engaging with those emails. We have a pretty good open rate for them. And so we're able to look at all those metrics and kind of engage. But social media, email, and then one thing we started doing in this previous fiscal year as well is we started requesting the Twitter and Instagram handles of the people who were going to be the guests on the show. And we tag them in anything that we post, and then they are usually retweeting that or sharing it on their story. And that has also been a game changer for us.
That's massive. Yeah, that's huge. I could only imagine if Peyton Manning is resharing that post.
Yeah, I need to get
a couple million followers.
I know. I need to get Peyton on the show. We had some pretty big names last year, and he's one of the outliers. I wish I could get him on there. So, but yeah, so he's got some teammates that have been on there. So he's next on the list for sure.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. Well, before we kind of go into a little more detail about how you're even taking things further with virtual events and in-person events, we do have a quick message from our sponsors over at Concept 3D. So if your school needs an updated and accessible interactive map, virtual tour, or centralized events calendar, please reach out to concept3d.com. Short and sweet. Okay, we'll get right back at it here. So I know, Jordan, through our conversation to start, we mentioned that you have a strong passion for DEI work, which I think you've mentioned few times throughout as well, but you're taking things to the next level with your virtual events and in-person events, making them actually accessible, which is something new. I haven't really heard too much about this. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're doing and, why you started this as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, I think it really does take a team to make sure that we're practicing inclusivity with our events, especially virtual events, because they are on it's a different thing to tackle.
Right.
So everything from the way we place graphics and the colors that we're using to make sure that they don't hinder people who may have visual impairments, which are watching our shows live. Being that our speakers are on live, making sure that we have subtitles and captioning options on all of our streaming platforms is something that we've really emphasized and focused on. In the beginning of StreamYard, they did not have auto captioning. So we actually had to pay someone who would come in and they would type in real time and send out all of our captions. And thankfully
Wow.
so that was an added challenge there. But thankfully through their updates and accessibility that they have handled, we have captioning that's available on all of our streaming platforms as well. And then just making sure that when we put things on screen, that the sizing of our font and the style of the letters that we're using and all of those things are accessible for people who are watching, and that they're able to do that. Something that people often, I don't think, really think about, and I don't even know if I mentioned this when you and I talked, but one thing that we really wanted to make sure is that people could enjoy our shows from their cell phone. We have a lot of people who don't have access to desktops and laptops, and maybe that's not financially accessible for them, or maybe they just don't have one. And so are all of our events accessible
Right.
to be viewed on a cell phone or on a platform like that? So those have been little things that we've done, but that I think have made a larger impact again on the community as a whole. And then really part of, I think, DEI work, but really making sure that we're being representative in the people that we bring onto the show as well. I mean, we work at a PWI, and a lot of our former athletes are in certain demographics and in certain identity groups, and so making sure that when we're selecting and requesting people to come on, that we're being aware of who are the previous 4 guests who have been on, or have we only used this specific type of athlete, or whatever the case may be. So just making sure that we're being aware in general of who we're bringing onto the show, and meeting with them beforehand so they understand our expectations and things of that nature as well. So I think that's gone a long way for the work that we do in that space. And I think something that I try to be really cognizant of is what's happening in the world and what's happening around us. And we're fortunate to have a platform and an opportunity where people can share what their opinions and beliefs are, or share a perspective. Specifically when the George Floyd incident happened, and we were kind of reeling through that and trying to understand like how to advocate, as for me as a white, cisgender male, like how can I advocate and support my Black friends and my friends of color. And I came to my supervisor and I said, I want to do a webinar where I can pull people that are of color and Black leaders on our campus and put them on a panel and allow them to share what it's like at an institution and what we can do as an institution to help. And I mean, so I think just being aware of what's happening and not just letting I hate saying this because it happens so often, but not being desensitized to what we see in the media and saying like, hey, I just saw this headline scroll across. It's like, hey, I just saw this headline scroll across, and what can we do with that? What can we do to help hopefully educate people on how to be more inclusive and accepting? And so that's something that I really try to keep my wits about myself when I'm working on these events.
Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, you're taking, this is a prime example as I'm learning more about DEI and accessibility, is that it's got many, many layers, many, many different points of view, right? Like you talked about digital accessibility, physical accessibility. Just now you talked about DEI. It's all encompassing under one related umbrella. And so that's really impressive work. I remembered you also talking about digital accessibility and how the visual communication aspect is something often that I think often gets overlooked, especially in like live streaming formats where like you'll show someone, but if someone's visually impaired, they can't see it, and the description of that isn't shared. But I know that's something you're also helping to make sure is described as best can, obviously verbally, so that you're meeting those needs as well. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have a host on all of these shows too, so that's really helped with the descriptive part of explaining what we're seeing, or storytelling, right? It's more than just getting on and having someone talk. It's telling a story and painting the picture for the viewer. Because I'll be honest, it's not always too just about maybe somebody can't see the screen. It's also the people who have it on, but maybe they're not watching, right? It's kind of like being on a radio. It's like, I need to paint the picture, like what's happening, so that's part of that too. And to your point too about in-person events, I mean, I think we've seen a lot of growth there, and being mindful. The example I shared with you when we talked first was we hosted an event in the spring called Volunteer 40 Under 40, where we recognize 40 alumni under the age of 40 that have made outstanding accomplishments in their career or profession and in their community. And this year, one of the things that we did that, simple and not really a lot of work on our part, but something that makes a huge impact, is we offered large print programs and menus for our guests. And we ordered a stack of maybe 25 of those. We put them on the edge of the check-in table and just said, here's a stack of large print programs and menus. If you or someone may need this for the ceremony. Again, not a lot of sweat off of our back. Many people probably didn't use it. But if one or two or zero people walked into that event and they saw it and they said, wow, that would be really great if my grandparent was here, or that would be really great if my cousin was here who can't see the screen on the third row, or whatever it may be, right? It's those little touch points that create a more inclusive environment for 1, 2, 5, 10 people, but it's bringing the whole event more inclusive as a whole too. So I think it's little things like that we really can be more intentional about.
Right. And again, thinking things from a business perspective, like it can't be hurting you, right? Making these things accessible. Like I was just having a conversation with someone that, it's just like you had mentioned, like closed captions, something a lot of people just use now. Like I think Gen Z has the highest percentage of use of closed captions and subtitles, because it's a better way for them to digest the conversation than it is for hearing. So yeah, I think, it's just adding more value, and I think that's impressive.
Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Jordan, thanks so much for sharing all this information, what you're doing with special events, and how you're taking a lot of things to the next level. Where can our audience and our listeners connect with you and learn more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I first just want to say thank you for the opportunity, and it's a privilege to get to do this and to get to share some of my experiences with everyone. You can find me on LinkedIn, Jordan Prewitt. It's Prewitt. Also on Twitter and Instagram, also at Jordan Prewitt. And so I'd be happy to connect with anyone, or share experiences, and hopefully learn something from all of the great people who have also been a part of this experience and podcast, or even are listening right now. So just want to say thank you again for the opportunity to share. And like I started the podcast, I'll end it with a Go Vols, as always.
Thanks, Jordan. Love that. And again, if your school or institution is looking for an updated interactive map, virtual tour, centralized events calendar, please reach out to concept3d.com. Thank you, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, everyone.